This is the Hammer by LSD. It's been made pretty popular in recent months with Noa Deane basically riding it as his everyday shortboard. Noah's 6'1", 85 kilos, and he rides this board at 31.1 litres. This model was designed to be ridden as a step up. My regular shortboard's a 6'0". This board right here is a 6'2", 29.4 litres. Ideally, you'd want to ride this model 2 inches up from your regular shortboard. Luke got some inspiration for this design with an old 90s board that he had lying around in his shed. He and Noah worked over it after a pretty successful Hawaii season for Noah in 2020. It's nice and wide under the chest, but then it's got a really pulled in tail and a pretty pulled in top third. The purpose of this board for me, and the reason I really wanted to test it out, was to see how it went in the conditions when they got solid or overhead. I think one thing you really want to look for in a step up is how it paddles in the lineup and how you can negotiate the waves when they kind of get a bit unruly. As I mentioned, this board is made to be ridden when the waves get really good. But recently Taj Burrow took Luke's design, the Chlorine, which is the groveler out of the LSD range, for a spin, and he named it the Finalist, coming in at 4th in the most recent Stab in the Dark. I loved how this board felt at home. On the points when it was good, it paddled really well, and on some of those late drops, I didn't really feel like I was riding a step up. It felt like it fit into the curve of the wave really well. Then on some of those more open beach breaks where you're doing a lot of paddling and a lot of duck diving, I think this board navigated the lineup really well, and I'd attribute that to that wider point under your chest, being there's a fair bit of foam there. So it certainly makes you feel comfortable when you're in the lineup and you've got to make some decisions about, you know, what wave in the set you're going to go and where to duck dive and what gutter to paddle through and things like that. I certainly felt like it got me round and put me in the positions that I wanted to be. Early in the year, I was lucky enough to test this board out in Western Australia, where I got to surf Margaret River Main Break and the Box. The water's a little cooler over on the west coast, so I jumped in the 3.2 full suit out of the Eco range from Project Blank. Both sessions I had over there on this board, I really couldn't fault it. When the waves were pretty solid out Margs, I felt like I could paddle in and out really easy. Obviously some of those bigger sets were feathering outside, and that's a place where I think sometimes you want to sit a little bit further in, but you've definitely got to play the game of ducking and weaving the bigger sets, to which we definitely got caught out a few times.
Oh, this one, lads.
But roving around the lineup and trying to pick waves off from underneath the crowd, this thing moved around so well, and then once I actually got into the wave, it felt like I wasn't riding a board that was too long at all. It was really responsive, and whether I was carving or snapping, it felt really nice. And then going over and having a surf on it at the Box, I was interested to see whether, you know, those feelings of being able to draw nice long lines equated to being able to take a steep drop, and it certainly ticked all the boxes for me and felt like it belonged out there. One thing you don't want in a short, steep barreling ride is a board that feels way too long, but I think with the pulled in tail and sort of it being pretty refined through the edges, it felt really nice, and I'd certainly love to give this board another go out there. Obviously this board was made to be ridden when the waves get overhead, but I actually had a lot of fun riding this board when the waves got a little bit smaller. It certainly is something I'd recommend if your quiver's ever feeling stale. Jump on a step up and give that a go. It'll definitely breathe some life back into your quiver. The general rule of thumb when you're riding your step-ups is to ride a slightly smaller fin. So on this occasion, I was just riding the rake set from Futures just in the medium. I never felt like I needed any more fin in the board. The extra rail line comboed up with the smaller fin worked a treat. This board definitely loves a steep section, and you'd certainly want to have some speed when you're looking to attack any turn. There was a few opportunities I had where the wave kind of flattened out and it just kind of didn't really sit into the curve of the wave that well. I personally love the look of this board and I love the feel of it. Every time I rode it, it did exactly what I wanted it to do.